Hi everyone. As we're all kind of getting stuck in our houses, I was thinking about our some of my friends with kids, some of the parents at my kids' school, my clients who have kids, and I've noticed some of us have been struggling a little bit. So I was thinking I would do kind of a brief mindful parenting 101 today. This is something that I normally do and plan to do this May at the libraries as part of Mental Health Month. I hope we'll get to do that. Fingers crossed. We will see. All right, let's get started. So first, here's the disclosure. This is just for informational purposes only. This is not intended to take place of therapy, even though I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. If you need therapy, I would suggest you contact a therapist and have most likely a telehealth session with them. That's how this is working at the moment. Oh, look, I'm covering up my name. I'm Amanda Villavesas, LMFT, for any of you who don't know. I'm a marriage and family therapist in Kentucky, and I work at North Star Counseling Center. I also am the project coordinator for Mental Health Month in the Ville, which is an organization that helps promote the many mental health resources in our city and educate people on mental health and decrease the stigma, hopefully. All right, so we're going to talk today about mindful parenting 101, keeping it together in times of stress. Let's start with this calming video that hopefully doesn't go to an ad. Come on, video. There we go. All right, parents, caregivers, I want you to sit for a second and just take in the stream. And as you do this, do a little bit of what we call a body scan. So you'll start at your feet. Think about your feet. Maybe flex or wiggle your toes. And taking some slow breaths, you'll work your way up to your legs. Noticing if there's any tension you're holding there. Noticing if there's any aches and pains. And give your calves a gentle squeeze and then release. Another breath in. And move up to your thighs. Right now you might be thinking, there are children who need to be fed. They're at the door pestering me. They won't leave me alone. That is all possible. You are welcome to pause this at any time if you need to. But I encourage you to take this moment for yourself if you're capable. Capable might not be the right word. If you're able. Now move up to your tummy. And just give it a little flex. Maybe close your eyes if you want. And just take some slow breaths. Move up into your back. Maybe move your shoulders back and forth, creating that tension in your back. And all you're doing really is scanning your body right now to notice the level of tension that you might be holding. You can move into your arms and your shoulders. If it feels tight, feel free to give it a roll or kind of wiggle a little. Maybe adjust your posture. I know I'm often sitting forward and I need to just sit back and take a little bit of that pressure, that weight that I put on my neck and shoulders from leaning forward. And then another slow breath. Move into your neck. Maybe move it around a little. And then your face, which is one of my favorite places to go because we often don't realize how we're furrowing our brow or we're holding tension in our jaw. So maybe just give your jaw a little wiggle. Let your eyebrows go up and down. Let your forehead kind of melt away as much as you can. If you need to, you can also kind of give a little bit of pressure just to kind of help those muscles relax. And then as you finish, go to the top of your head and just notice if there's any kind of tension or tingling or feelings there. And just try and relax it. Imagine that your skull and everything are just kind of like going from a little bit of tense to at ease. Tense to at ease. Okay, we're going to pause this. You are welcome to come back to this relaxing river sounds that I found on YouTube. You're also welcome to find your own if you want. Have it play in the background. Um, but we're going to move on now to some other slides. There's my mindful parenting moment right there. I'm definitely keeping that. All right. All right. So let's be real. 90% of parenting is thinking about when you can lie down again. I find this all too real sometimes because life is busy. Maybe you work from home, maybe you're a stay-at-home parent, maybe you have a disability, maybe you have certain limitations or needs. And trying to be a caregiver on top of all those things can be really stressful. So it's kind of jokey, but it's a little true, is when will I get a break? I'm going to read this to you because I'm cutting off my words unless I can. Let me switch my video here real quick. Sorry, make this a little bit bigger. Okay. So mindfulness is a buzzword now. You hear it pretty much everywhere. There are a million apps for mindfulness. And it's a word that is often just used to describe like the practice of living in the moment and being peaceful about it and accepting it, even though it's uncomfortable, and maybe just being clear of thoughts altogether. But the truth is, it's okay to have struggles with mindfulness. It's okay to not be the perfect mindful parent or to um, have moments of weakness or moments of anger, moments where we're lazy, moments where our attention is elsewhere because that's kind of how our brains work and we have lots and lots of things to focus on. So thinking of mindfulness in the sense of I can be in the moment at any time. I can clear away all the thoughts and I can just be here is a great idea, but it's not always something that we can attain right away. It takes lots and lots of practice. So I encourage you today to remind yourself that you're human. It's okay to be human, and it's okay to be practicing. So I say mindfulness is really about like bringing attention to the moment and having awareness of present events and experiences. So that could mean that you're paying attention to how you're feeling in this moment. You're just bringing awareness to it. You're paying attention to maybe what's going on for your child in this moment and having an awareness of what they're feeling or what they're experiencing. So there's mindful awareness versus mindful attention. And mindful awareness is what allows us to develop and fully understand the process and experiences and to make conscious decisions versus habitual decisions. So not being as reactive. We're going to be more mindful in the moment so that we can make a more conscious decision versus kind of just, acting out, responding. And that typically, as you can imagine, usually has to lead to an I'm sorry, an apology. Maybe it gets the whole household riled up. So we're going to focus today a little bit more on mindful awareness. Attention is our natural attention process can typically hold an object or an experience in focus for a short period of time before we respond to it. Think about how many numbers you can remember in a sequence. It's typically not too many unless you are really, really skilled at that. All right, mindfulness for work from home parents. So, working from home is probably leaving you feeling pretty stressed right now, maybe overwhelmed or feeling disconnected. Um, I know that I've heard a few friends say that they would really love to just be able to talk to adults again. I don't blame you. I miss my colleagues. I miss hanging out with my friends. There's a lot of stuff that just isn't really happening right now, and we're doing most of it virtually, which is nice. It's cool that we're adapting, but at the same time, it's okay for us to be kind of longing for those days of having a little bit of alone time. Maybe also you're starting to feel a little cabin fever because typically your family isn't all in one place for such a long time, and you're used to being able to maybe like have a lunch break by yourself or a thought, an uninterrupted thought. Imagine that. So this is definitely a more stressful situation. It's a different situation than many of us are used to. So let's talk about the 5 elements of mindful parenting, which is what we're going to focus on today. The first is listening with our full attention. The second is non-judgmental acceptance of yourself and child. Then the third is emotional awareness of self and child. Fourth is self-regulation in parenting relationship. And the fifth is compassion for yourself and child. So when we talk about listening with your full attention, what I'm talking about is put down your phone, put down your distractions, and show them with your body language that you are paying attention. Notice in the picture, the woman has, her daughter's face right here, and she's making eye contact with her. Her shoulders are square to her. They are paying attention to each other. So, this might feel like, oh, this is going to take up all my time if I stop every minute and pay attention to every little thing that my child wants to tell me. And believe me, I definitely understand you there. I have children myself, and they often want to tell me about many, many, many things that I don't always feel like I have time for. The thing to consider, though, is when we stop for a second, pay attention to our children, make eye contact, and reflect the things that we hear them saying, they often feel heard. And typically, that's where they're going to stop and go do something else because now, oh, great, mom heard me, dad heard me, grandma heard me, grandpa heard me. Um, Sometimes you have a chattier child or a child who just really likes to share everything with you. And in those cases, it's okay for you to tell them that you can't have this full-on conversation at the moment. Maybe you're in the middle of work, maybe you're cooking food, maybe you're just trying to rest and take a nap and do something for yourself. What you can do is give them that attention, even if it's brief. Make eye contact. Let them know you're here, you're listening, and you can respond with a reflection. Often reflections involve an emotion word, as we say. So this could be, um, that sounds like you really like that show. I would love to hear more about it after, and then we're going to give a little bit of a time frame. And you want to keep this in context of what is developmentally appropriate for the child. So for some children, that's like, I'm gonna, we can talk about this after, I take a 20-minute nap. Can you give me 20 minutes and then we'll come back and we can talk about this? Or maybe for younger children, it might be, that's some parents phrase it as one episode of insert favorite television show here. It doesn't always have to be a TV show how you mark it, but that's what some people do and that's beneficial. But you want to keep it in the frame of what works for the child. Okay. Listening to my dog bark in the background. I don't know if it's going to go full on or not. So, um, Another great thing about listening full attention is that it kind of gives you an idea of what the subtext is of what your child is saying or what they're trying to help you understand. So maybe they're, coming in and they're really, really animated and they want to tell you something and you're kind of like, I'm in the middle, I'm busy. Um, what's great is if you stop and you pause and you give them a little bit of time, make eye contact and pay attention, and then you reflect back with an emotion word like, oh, that sounds like you were really sad about that. Your child will, uh, A, either tell you if you're right or wrong, and B, you will get a better understanding of kind of behavioral subtext. So if that kid is really sad about something, maybe you'll notice behaviors connected to feeling sad, like they're kind of standoffish, they don't want to talk. Um, maybe sometimes we get angry when we get sad. And so if you're trying to understand why is my child so angry, paying attention to what they're saying and being able to notice that subtext can really help you sort of make situations, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? To help them problem solve situations, to help them find tools like, oh, well, when you're sad, these are things you can do. Or if you are in need of, a hug, I'm here to give you a hug. Let me help you. And if they don't want your help, that's okay too. That's how some people process. But it's just simply helping you kind of understand, oh, they're really crabby right now. Oh, it turns out they're sad because their sibling took their toy. Next, we have um, non-judgmental acceptance of self and child. Whew, this is a fun one. So, how do we non-judgmentally accept ourselves? That seems to be where many people I talk to have trouble because so many of us have a negative voice in our heads that is judging us, and we feel like it's, how do I shake that, especially as a parent or a caregiver, because often we want to be the best we can. I want you to ask yourself in certain moments to stop. Can you stop? Can you notice what expectations am I putting on myself during this exchange with my child right now? Are they realistic or do they need to change? And perhaps that means that you are, expecting yourself as a stay-at-home parent to be homeschooling all week and to have a rigorous schedule and to be having, have your kids learning all the things they should be learning at school. And you're not doing it. And that's okay. It's okay if you cannot live up to those standards. It's okay if you check in with yourself and you see that you are not able to, maybe you've set too high of a standard, right? So asking yourself, what is the expectation I have on myself right now? And is it realistic? Does it need to change? You can do the exact same thing for your child. What is the expectation I have for my child? And is it realistic? Is it realistic for us to expect a 2-year-old to get themselves dressed and brush their teeth every single morning? Not really. Is it realistic for us to expect our, you know, 8-year-old to always be a perfect listener and do everything they're told and finish their chores on time? Not always. Is it realistic to always expect your teenager to be engaged or to be thoughtful about some of their actions? Not necessarily. So recognize that there are developmentally appropriate tasks that each child is able to complete, and then there are some that we put forth on them that they are not always able to complete, but we have the expectation that they should be able to do it. And maybe it's something you could do at that age, but they can't, and that's okay too. Let's move forward now. Oh, I keep clicking on the wrong screen. Sorry. I have two screens. Okay. Next one is emotional awareness of self and child. This is one of the biggest ones, really. And at the end, we'll do a little bit of an exercise called the ABCs of mindfulness, the mindful ABCs. That's the word. So emotional understanding of yourself and your child really begins with you. So if you think about it right now, I want you to stop and take a really nice deep breath, and I want you to check in with yourself. How are you feeling right now? When we did the exercise in the beginning of the progressive relaxation, were you feeling overly stressed? Were you feeling overwhelmed? Were you a little shaky with anxiety? Because there's a lot of stuff happening in the world right now, and it's uncomfortable and sometimes pretty scary. What's important to know is that just as joy can be contagious, so can anxiety and stress. And if you think about it, it's contagious in multiple ways. Some is the way we react when we are feeling stressed. So maybe if you're feeling stressed, you are less likely to be patient with your child. And if you're less likely to be patient with your child, then your child is going to recognize and start to feel that agitation themselves. And then they are going to start responding and acting based on the agitation they're feeling. Now, the good thing about being the adult is that hopefully by this point, you have developed a pretty good vocabulary and understanding or recognition of how you're feeling. Kids aren't always quick to necessarily name the feeling they're feeling. That's actually something that we as grown-ups have to teach them and help them. That's why we have so many feelings books and things like that. Because kids, as I like to say, kids are like, they live in emotion world. But as we get older, we start to be able to develop more of like a cognitive ability to think about our feelings. And so we start to label them and we start to identify them and group them. And when you're an adult, if you can pause and go, oh, that exchange I just had with my boss is leaving me feeling really agitated right now. So what do I need to do for myself so that when I get home, or if you are at home, when I turn off this conference call and I have to go upstairs and hang out with my kids, or I have to go make food for them or check in on them, or, there was a loud crash and I now have to go deal with that. How can I be aware of the agitation I'm holding and not necessarily let that be me being reactive to my child based on that agitation, because that agitation happened with one person, and if you bring it to your child and have an exchange with them or your partner, or you know then it's you're having an exchange that's very one-sided, because the other person has no idea that you were in the other room on a conference call and were becoming really agitated. So it's okay for you to acknowledge the feeling. It's okay for you to take a deep breath. It's okay for you to decide what's best for yourself in this moment. Maybe before you run upstairs to figure out what that loud crash was, you give yourself a moment to calm down. You give yourself a moment to decide what do you need and how can you get that need met. Once you do this for yourself, you can teach your child to do it. When your children are feeling upset, when they're feeling really agitated, being reactive to their agitation, as you probably know, doesn't typically stop the agitation. What normally happens is it'll escalate it, or it'll pivot to some other emotion. So what you can do is, if you notice, like we'll use agitation, if your child is feeling agitated, you can name that feeling for them and say, it seems like you're really agitated, or you're feeling agitated. And they will tell you if you're right or wrong, because even though kids don't necessarily have an immediate vocabulary for all of the feelings they're feeling, they'll let you know yes, no, sort of, and correct that. Then you can help them understand what things they need to do to take care of themselves. Like, okay, you can ask them, what do you need to do to help yourself calm down? And maybe they know and maybe they don't, because again, those are things we need to teach. If they don't know, then you can help them by giving them some tools, helping them know, like belly breathing. This is something we use a lot. You find your anchors, one on your chest, one on your belly. You can't really see my hand, but it's down here in my belly. And you take a deep breath in, and you let your belly rise first, and then your chest. And then you let your belly exhale first, and then your chest. Okay. Now, let's talk about self-regulation in the parenting relationship. Self-regulation is really this concept of, in many ways, self-care. We can talk about it as far as noticing that feeling, noticing what your need is, and then giving yourself space to help get that need met. And maybe that need can't be met in the immediate moment. Maybe you have to do like a small step from that need, like if my need is I'm feeling really, really overwhelmed right now, and what I really need to do is go for a run, but I can't just leave the house right now and go for a run because I don't have anyone to watch the kids. Then what I might do is just do something right now in this moment. Like I might do some jumping jacks or I might run in place. Something that will help me kind of get that energy out. Maybe I'll do a stretch. Stretching is actually one of the best things you can do as far as just kind of like helping yourself reset. And it's pretty easy, you know. Stretch. Now you guys can all watch me stretch. Okay. Um, when we are able to self-regulate, when we are able to take care of ourselves on the front end, in the back end, and in the middle of a feeling that maybe is a big feeling like anger or grief or I've said agitation a lot today. Oh, being overwhelmed or anxiety, then what we can do is we will learn tools to better self-regulate so that we are less reactive in the moment with our children when we are parenting. And so that means having kind of a mindfulness or a mindful awareness about our feelings throughout the day. I tell my clients actually to put a little note on their phone or have a little alarm or use this great thing. I don't know how many of you use it, but there's this thing called the Pomodoro app. It's otherwise known as the tomato timer. It pops up on your screen every 20, 25 minutes and tells you it's time to take a stretch. It's time to take a break. There are many kind of computer programs similar that will tell you to stop and take a walk, take a lap, do something, get moving. Because if you're at your computer all day, or you're trying to be at your computer all day, um, then you might need to take a little bit of a break and remember to move your body so that you can have a check-in. Because otherwise, it's really easy to get into the tunnel vision mode of I'm at work, I'm doing my work. And then, oh my gosh, it's been 3 to 4 hours and I've completely lost track of time. So doing those mindful check-ins with yourself throughout the day can be helpful for you to recognize what your needs are and get your needs met. When they are very, very obvious and glaringly obvious, that's also a great time for you to stop, pause, pay attention to the feeling. Again, we'll do the mindful ABCs at the end. This will be helpful for this. And assess what you need to do, what your needs are. And again, when you do this, you can teach your child how to do this too. And that's kind of the really cool, powerful thing here. I don't know if you can hear the children in the background at the moment. My husband's having a good time watching them while I do this. Okay, last one is compassion for self and child. And like I said, sometimes this is actually the hardest one because people aren't always compassionate to themselves. People often have a negative voice in their head and they can be quite mean to themselves. One book I really love, and this is a workbook I often use with my clients, is called, I'll move it over, the Mindful Self-Compassion Workbook. And you can get this online. It has some really great exercises um, to help you become more compassionate and mindful at the same time. One thing you can do for yourself is a very simple kind of exercise, and I'm actually going to recommend, because I love when people just do a guided meditation, is this app, which I will try to pull up for you. And again, try to show you my camera. This is called Stop, Breathe, and Think. And it's a free app. You can use it. You're going to click Explore. Martha Stewart even has meditations, which is great. You probably can't see everything on here. If we go to compassion, there are multiple, you can kind of see it. There are multiple exercises. They're pretty short. And these are really great ways for you to practice that compassion for yourself, that mindful compassion, and get started on that. One of the best things too is just tuning in and noticing. They're so loud right now. One of the best things you can do right now is just also tune in and notice, how are you feeling? What are your expectations? It's okay for you to not be perfect. It's okay for you to have moments of, like I said, weakness, moments of agitation, moments of frustration. And and when we have those moments, they're great learning moments too. They're good learning moments to be able to say to your child or to your partner or whoever, your friend, I messed up. I made a mistake, or I acted, I was reactive when I shouldn't have been. And I'm sorry. And also to yourself that I wasn't perfect, and it's okay for me to not be perfect. And I will, proceed forward with knowing that I can. Sorry. I'm going to keep all of this because it's the most real com- mindful parenting 101 there could be. Um, so, where was I? Oh, yeah, it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to be a work in progress. And none of this is letting you off the hook. This is you saying that was a learning moment and I'm going to learn from it as I move forward. All right, here is our mindful ABCs. So, what I want you to do is practice the mindful ABCs a few times a day. It's a really good way to just build up that awareness, that mindful awareness. And what you do is, and it also sounds super simple, and it's not always super simple, but keep doing it because it does become easier. A is awareness. A is, I noticed I was driving in traffic, or I was driving and somebody cut me off. And what happened? I became so irritated with that person. Now, what you might do to be reactive would be, I'm going to speed up and I'm going to let them know how I feel. But instead, it's, I'm really irritated about that thing that just happened. And instead, I'm going to sit for a moment and I'm going to take a deep breath. And I'm going to feel where that irritation is in my body. And I'm going to kind of objectively look at that. And I'm going to notice any thoughts I might have that are coming at the moment. I'm going to be objective about those too. So I'm not going to get on the train here and be, cussing this person out in my head. Instead, I'm going to say, oh, I'm having thoughts of irritation, anger. Maybe behind that, oh, is that really scared me? Okay, so there's a little more information. Be with your feelings, be with the physical sensations, be with the thoughts. This is info gathering. And if you can do it by looking at them objectively, paying attention to, taking note of what's happening, they're going to inform you as to what you need, which is C. And C is choose the best path forward for you at that moment. Now, you could easily drive faster, pull up to that person, and let them know how you feel. And then what? Then you continue on your day and maybe you're feeling irritated and letting that stick with you? Or do you choose something else? Like maybe you're like, I need to pull over and take a few breaths because that actually really startled me. And I had a moment of serious concern. Or maybe you take a deep breath and you say, I'm going to let that go. Or maybe you even send a little compassion to that person. That I hope whatever is making that person drive so erratically is, um, I hope that they don't feel that way all day. I hope that they find the calm they need. The last one's sometimes a little harder to achieve, so don't worry if you're not uh, so kind. And then finally, another exercise for you all to try is the exercise of draining versus nourishing tasks. So as you have your children home, you may, like me, have a little bit of a schedule of daily routine and what we're going to do. And, we're going to do math at 10 and we're going to do science at 1, etc. Um, and at the same time, you might recognize that some days that's too much pressure and that's too much. And so what I want you to do is I want you to try this exercise of making a list of your daily routines or your new routine, your current routine. And then I want you to go back to it. And you can be as detailed as you want, like brush teeth, get dressed, all that's fine. And I want you to put a D next to anything that's draining, that makes you just feel tired, and you dread it. And then I want you to put an N next to anything that feels nourishing. Like maybe it's, a movie time with your kids, or, we go out and we play soccer, or maybe it's you get to take a bath by yourself, or read a book, or, get some uninterrupted work time. All of those are really great things. If it feels neutral, you can just kind of leave it blank and not worry about it. Then what you're going to do is you're going to look at the tasks marked D, and then around that in your schedule, see if either you need to add in something nourishing to that schedule so that that D becomes more of a neutral, or, so thinking of ways you can take care of yourself. Or if you don't want to add something, is there a way to modify that so that it feels less draining? For example, like we have a school schedule right now at home. However, like I said, some days it's just not practical. Like at the moment, we are helping some friends out and we're watching their kid. It's who's younger than my children, and so he's not really school age yet. It feels a little inappropriate to ask him to sit down and do math for an hour. So we're kind of just having an off day, and that's okay. We recognized that trying to get the children to continue on the schedule that we set for them today might not just be very realistic, and so we're going to modify it today. Maybe tomorrow we go back to normal. And the bonus exercise is do this with your kids and get some insight into how they feel. And now some of those things are maybe non-negotiable, like you have to clean your room. It's a thing you have to do. But you can help them learn self-care by creating some ends around that or finding ways to modify that activity so that it's less of a draining kind of dreaded activity and more of something that they find fun and interesting. Okay, so that is it for me today. Thank you for hanging in there. This is about 40 minutes. Woo. If you have any questions, you can send me an email at amandav@northstarcounselingcenter.com, or you can ask me, or you can, well, actually I prefer if you're going to ask me a question, send it to my email. But you are also welcome to make a comment on Facebook or follow me on Instagram, both at AmandaVMFT. And like I said, I cannot actually, if you're not my client, we can't really have too in-depth of engagement, but but I would be really happy to send anybody referrals or more information on this topic if you would like to have that. Okay, thanks very much. Hang in there, everybody. Have a good one.